Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to another segment of Asaph Cafe. I am your host, Asaph Adonai, and once again we have some regulars on our program. On my immediate left, our aging rocker, affectionately known as Emmett, and of course the lovely Linda Brooks Curtis. I couldn't do this show without people like Emmett and Linda and all the rest of the gang, Teresa and Patty and all the rest of the gang whenever they're here. But for now, it's just Emmett and Linda, and I'm very, very thankful that they're here. And this time I'm not going to forget what time it is. I had to improvise my way last time because I'd forgotten when I started. So anyway, this is our Valentine's Day show for 2016. And for anybody watching this show, I personally want to wish all of you a happy Valentine's Day. Whether you have a sweetheart or a date or you're with your family. And tell your mother that you love her too. That's a good time to tell your mom you love her on Valentine's Day. Yeah, my birth mom was born on Valentine's Day, February 14th.
Wow.
But you know, I know I'm closer to my other mom, but you know, I'm fortunate to have these two moms. But I just wanted to share that with you. My birth mom. Her name is Primrose, and she was born on February 14th.
What a pretty name.
Yes, that was her name, Primrose. So now, since we're doing a Valentine's Day, I guess I'll start out with a love song here. Let's start out with Time for Us.
From West Side Story. Oh no, this is from Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
I've heard this on easy listening stations many times, yes. Oh, yeah, many times, yep. Almost makes me want to do the dishes. Time to do the dishes, yep. Easy listening, yep.
Well, I think it's a very emotional melody, even if it didn't have such beautiful words.
Yep, it is.
Here's the part two.
And I have to fight the impulse to whistle. So you want to wash dishes and I want to whistle.
Yeah, I know. Fascinating.
Well, back in January, I was able to get out. I couldn't find any of those penny Valentines for my grandchildren, you know, to use, but they could get them later and their parents could buy them for them. So I got them a little miniature set of stamps with a miniature ink pad and red ink in it to stamp the Valentines that they would get to sign out or send out. So that was nice because they really liked it and they were going to town with those stamps. And then, you know, the old conversation hearts. So those were my Valentines.
Cool, cool. Well, I'll tell you, I wrote about this in my autobiography. When I was a kid, there was this girl named Patricia Green when we lived in Taiwan. She's a blonde-haired little girl. And I used to like her, so I used to chase her in class every day. And I always I was trying to get her to like me, so I'd always go after her, chase her. You know how kids would be laughing and stuff. Asaph's going after Patty. So one day, I don't know what it was. She must have told her parents or something. So I guess her parents or her friends said, okay, here's how you get even with Asaph. Let him have it. So when I went to chase her, she had a piece of bread with thick mayonnaise that I did not see because, you know, I had to run around the corner to go after her. So when I came around the corner, she went right in my face in front of the class and the teacher, because we had those teachers that used to wear the habits on the nuns, and even the nun was laughing at that one. And so I had this piece of bread stuck on my face. I was in the 3rd grade when that happened, and there's mayonnaise all over, and all the kids were laughing at me and stuff. So I decided to leave the young girl alone, not chase her after that incident.
Yeah.
And I call it humble pie. Humble pie never tasted so good. So that was a true story that happened to me when I was in 3rd grade.
Well,
I mean, that girl just laid into me with this piece of bread, and it was like thick mayo. She must have had it hidden or something. She knew I was going to come around because I used to go around in the same spot every time. Boy, she let me have it.
Yeah.
I had to go to the bathroom, clean myself up. Then I walked back into class, and everybody's laughing at me for a second time. Boy, they talked about me for days after that incident.
Amazing, yeah.
Well, I have my own Valentine's Day statement to make.
Okay.
Of course, in 1980, I was living in Las Vegas and we had our 9-week run of Jacques Brel, and I was teaching too. But I met the man I thought was my dream man, and it was interesting. We decided to get married on Valentine's Day, and lo and behold, the church where I was a soloist let us have the church free. But there were other groups, quite a few groups, because Las Vegas is a big center for Valentine's Day weddings.
Oh, yeah.
And so there I was at First Baptist. They let me use the sanctuary free for my wedding.
Really?
And my friends came in and decorated it with yellow pew boughs because I didn't want red for my color. I wanted my colors, yellow and green. So in midwinter, I had daffodils. And unexpectedly, my relatives came in from all over. We hadn't even invited them. We just sent handwritten invitations to a few friends that said, high noon, be there. And we had an unexpected overflow of guests, and some friends donated food for the reception. The church also donated the use of one of their educational rooms for us to use for a reception. So I really felt blessed. I was a soloist there, and I did direct the children's choir, but that still was generous of them. And instead of the wedding march, my friend Robert Ball played Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring. So it was very memorable. And, that's sort of suddenly God's providence comes out, has recurred too many times to count in my life. One example is today. I was penniless, and I had to wait for my tax refund, which was supposed to be here yesterday, or my Social Security check, which is coming in next Wednesday. And no money to spend otherwise, nothing. Well, I opened the mail today, and I had agreed to do Nielsen's ratings, and inside the initial envelope were 2 crisp, brand new dollar bills.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was able to buy coffee for me for the show.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah.
And then, of course, because I pay for a meal a day at Missoula Manor, when I have to be gone for my lunch, they provide a sack lunch for me.
Wonderful.
And that's what we're eating here.
Wonderful.
So, he does provide.
He does.
That's true. I've had situations.
Same here. Yep.
I've had situations
yes.
like that where I just desperately had no money, and all of a sudden it would just come.
Yes, I've had that. Yeah.
I've had that doesn't happen often, but I've had unusual things like that happen.
Exactly.
Where you had no lunch, and like one time somebody just walked up to me and said, "Hey, you don't know me. You just look like a responsible person." And he reached in his pocket and handed me a $20 bill, and then said, "Pass it on."
Wonderful.
Pass it on when I get it, to somebody else.
Well, when I was working as a cocktail waitress, again in Las Vegas, I was going around asking everybody if they wanted a beverage, and people don't know that a lot of people who are gambling in Las Vegas only drink bottled water or coffee. Or a Coke, a soda. They aren't drinking alcoholic beverages. Well, anyway, I kept making the rounds, and every time I would ask this rather distinguished-looking black man if he wanted a beverage. And he never wanted anything. He was kind of grumpy-looking. And I was standing waiting to get my drinks to serve. He walked up to me and handed me a $20 bill. And I said, "What's that for? I didn't serve you." And he said, "You walked by me and smiled."
Wow. Yep.
So, people can recognize that, and they'll
always play that for you. It came to mind. Mañana.
Mañana.
Yeah, I told you the story about my sister. My sister's name is Kim, and when we were growing up, we had this old 45. You remember those old 45 records? They were like really tiny.
I
on a
still have one. I
phonograph.
was listening to one, yeah.
And there was a song, the Mañana song was on there. I don't know who was singing it. It wasn't Peggy Lee or anything like that. It was just no recording. And my sister used to play that over and over and over. She'd sit there like 5 times listening to it in one setting. It drove you nuts then, but the melody stuck with you, or at least with me. So
I still have a lot of 45s,
I put it into my act, you know.
Including, have you ever heard of Music Box Dancer by Greg Mills? Dun,
Of
dun, dun,
course.
dun, 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 dun. I have an old one. I love that song. It's one of my favorite easy listening songs. At a house I was living in Lewiston, Idaho, when we moved in, someone who took everything except for a 45-inch of that song, Music Box Dancer. I've kept it ever since because it was kind of free, just left there by the other owners. And I was listening to it a few days ago, It's so beautiful.
I wonder if Louise does anything to that.
I don't know. I have to ask her.
That would be nice because she's just perfect for that ballerina.
That's my little version of Music Box Dancer. I haven't done it in a while, but
he did a sequel. It was on KOZ FM Lewiston, the easy listening station. When I knew it was a sequel, something about don 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 don.
I don't know that. I don't think I know that.
I have it on tape. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'd have to hear it.
It's wonderful. Yeah, it was beautiful. But I knew it was a sequel to
Okay.
Music Box Dancer, and it turned out it was by the same person. I just knew it sounded like a sequel. I loved it.
Yeah, that's neat. Anyway, with Valentine's Day, it's just nice to play some nice romantic songs.
It is.
Oh, I see if you know this one.
Is that the Love Boat?
Yes.
I don't know. Yeah, that's right. The Love Boat. I never watched The Love Boat.
Really?
What was The Love Boat about?
I'll tell you in a moment. Let me finish it.
Bus, I hear.
I haven't done this in a while.
The Love Boat. Da, 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 da. I remember now.
Well, one thing that's a little bit disconcerting, Phil Puxatani, did not see his shadow this year. And we already have spring weather.
Well, I saw the version of the groundhog on the world news. I don't know who this mayor was, but when they put the groundhog up to his ear, the thing grabbed his ear and bit it.
Yeah.
It showed it on the world news.
There's
So I think I had to put a little alcohol on it off camera later.
and this elderly man, it just blew me away. He barely, barely gets around and talks. And he said, do you eat groundhog? Groundhog Day. Do you eat groundhog? And I said, no. And he said, yes, you do. He said, do you eat sausage? Yes. Well, that's groundhog. Sausage is groundhog.
That's strange.
So I thought that was really cute for him to come out with that.
Was The Love Boat a comedy?
No, it was more of it was like a, it was like a daytime not sitcom, but,
well, I don't want to pick on The Love Boat. It was kind of a
It was
corny,
like a
cheesy
soap
show.
opera
And what
type
I
of
mean
thing.
by that is, You go on this cruise, right? Mm-hmm. You get on the cruise, and all the couples are fighting and angry and ticked off at one another. And then by the time you finish that cruise, they're walking off that ship holding hands and all lovey-dovey. It was the same plot every week.
I never watched it.
It was like a soap opera.
Well, I guess you could say that, yeah. And even the crew that, they'd get a new fling like every week or something. Especially that Doc, That I don't know. Bernie Coppell's a fine actor, but that character he played on that show, yeah.
What was that song you were just playing?
Oh, the Tchaikovsky,
Yeah.
the Concerto in B flat. That's just a generic version of it. Because that you have to. That song's like what, 10 or 15 minutes long. You play that thing all the way through.
I have the music for that, and I actually could play it once.
Oh, cool.
Huh.
But
I didn't watch much TV as a kid. My parents thought I did, but I just watched the science fiction stuff. The other stuff I didn't, like Matlock or Starsky and Hutch. I never watched, or The Love Boat. So it was sci-fi with me. Nowadays, there's so much on cable. They even have reruns of Star Trek: The Next Generation. They've got also stuff on Destination America, History Channel, History 2, which has not going to be the History Channel anymore, sadly.
Oh, yeah.
Learn that on cable. It's going to be some sort of new, innovative, millennial-type programming, and they're going to move some of the other stuff on to A&E. But
Woody Woodpecker.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. I watch a lot more TV now than I used to.
Well, when I was in elementary school, we had a playhouse my dad had built for us.
Oh, really?
And my sister and I decided we were going to have our own television show, with the news, the weather, featured guest, and a person to perform. And I was the person who was kind of an anchor, and I was like Dear Abby. And I developed a pen name. I put together names from, or a stage name. I put together names from various people who were famous at that time, and I came up with Peg Rita Jordan.
That was your anchor name,
and
huh?
I drew cartoons for it and everything. Of course, we didn't broadcast, and we didn't have lights or action or a studio, but we had this little television show, we thought. We wrote scripts for it.
Cool.
Goodbye to elementary school. That was about the time we were still using our big red wagon to ride around the block in, filled with our cats in doll clothes, and we would make up scripts for wagon train episodes while we were doing them.
Amazing.
and the only treat we could have, we couldn't have candy. We weren't allowed to have candy. So the only treat we had was raisins, and the cats, the little kittens, would like to eat raisins too.
Oh.
That was their pay.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, cool.
So no cake, no ice cream for you either? No cake, no chocolate candy, no chocolate bars, no chocolate cake or ice cream or cookies?
Well, we could have those after dinner for dessert.
Oh, okay.
But we weren't allowed to have candy during the day because our father was very worried about our teeth.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Later, I appreciated it when I found out that I was hypoglycemic. Because eating too much refined sugar is hard on people.
Well, I had some sugar issues too when I was growing up, and that's why when I got in my early 30s, I just decided to change my entire diet. Because prior to that, I was drinking all that sugary soda, Pepsi, and Cokes, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I was drinking it like, they used to have those
Big gulps.
those big, no, I'm talking about those skinny hourglass, 16-ounce bottle Pepsi and Coke when I was a kid growing up, and they had this little plastic carton. It was like 4 on a side.
Yeah.
I could go through about 3 or 4 of those things in one setting.
Yep.
And so by the time I was 31, I just said, while I'm young, I'm gonna start taking care of this temple a little better.
But then the big problem.
You all right?
You gonna survive? Here.
It's just this thing with something caught in my throat.
Okay.
That called like I said, I'm not completely over it 1,000%, but sometimes when I'm talking, something gets.
Well, here, drink some of this water.
Would you
here.
like a cough drop?
They never help me.
Well, I took CPR, so if you'd have got in trouble, there's a universal sign.
I know.
And I certainly could get out of the way.
Yeah, well, I was. That's why I was getting up just to make sure.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that you can, if I eat even crackers, I can get something caught in my throat. I don't know what it was.
Okay, how you feeling now?
Yeah, fine, yeah.
Well, see, let's talk about that for a second. Usually, when somebody's in trouble, they say don't touch the person. Let the body naturally
exactly.
do its
You're
thing.
absolutely right.
And then, if they get in trouble, there's a universal sign where they'll go something
exactly,
like this, and then you get behind and you do the Heimlich maneuver, and it'll pop right out. So that's why I was waiting.
Yeah, exactly.
And when I got it
Actually,
from
that
the
was
bench,
just a major job of acting.
No, it wasn't. I'm afraid not.
no, he's just teasing. No, I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah.
But no, I did study that. I did take that.
Yeah, I took CPR courses from the Red Cross around 1986. Yes, I did.
Well, I would have known exactly what to do if you'd have got in
Good,
trouble.
good,
I would have
good,
had
good.
Linda get out of the way real quick.
Yeah.
And, so on. But we don't have to scratch this episode here because you're okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was just about to mention that it was when we discovered that we were overdoing it with those sugary sodas that more and more diet things came in and they were developing them. I discovered when they came out with aspartame that I just absolutely could not tolerate sodas that had what was called NutraSweet.
Yeah.
Oh, that was really bad.
That
NutraSweet.
is-
I just became
Yes.
strange and irrational and edgy
Same
just
here.
from one diet soda.
Yes,
Take
absolutely.
this napkin if you have to cough
So
up any
I would
phlegm.
I would rather just drink straight water than that.
Yeah, well, you know, to finish my story, so when I was 31 years old, I made a conscious decision I was going to change my diet. And I had to wean myself off. And so what I did, I said I was going to stop drinking soda. And I started drinking tea, like, that Lipton tea. And I would drink it with no sugar, just plain. And I had to adjust to getting used to it. And, of course, over the years now, they have, like, the Arizona green tea and, with ginseng honey and stuff.
Yep.
And I started eating wheat bread, and I started eating more fruits. And I would still eat meat, but I'd eat it in smaller portions. And there's as much vegetables as I can, just like you have Chinese food, And now, over the years, I've just felt much healthier. And I'm still relatively thin. And I think it's because I made that decision then that I was going to start eating right. And I started eating wheat breads, especially wheat breads with the nuts. I stopped eating all that Wonder Bread and all that white bread.
Oh,
all
yeah.
that. You ever had Wonder Bread?
Yes,
and I'm
I
not
have.
trying to pick on this company. Like, you take a hamburger patty, for example, and you put it on there, and it just literally goes through the bread almost.
I know.
Because of that processed stuff.
Well, anyway,
So I just, all that white bread is just, it's terrible.
and the other thing
It really is.
up until the end of 2009, when I was going between jobs, I'd have one job during the day and another job at night, I frequently just went through the fast food lane and got my lunch.
Yeah.
And it might not be a full meal. A lot of times I just got egg rolls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, after I had my ulcer, I modified my diet, and one of the things what I did was totally cut out fast food at all.
Yeah, I
I'm not
did.
knocking
Yeah.
fast food.
I'm not
it's good
knocking
for
it either,
some
but
people.
Exactly.
that fast food is just one of the worst things you
and
could
then
eat.
I
Yeah.
ate what my body
We don't even know
wanted:
what it is.
salmon, baked potato, and spinach.
Yeah.
That was my main meal for a long time. And believe it or not, I dropped 45 pounds.
Now I can make an exception with Wendy's.
God knows.
Yeah.
I used to work for Wendy's when I was in high school.
Well, there are a lot of good things about fast food.
It's
Yeah, I know.
fast,
I'm
but
not knocking it, but I'm just saying
Yeah,
as a
we
whole,
don't even
it's
know what
not
it is.
it's not a good diet.
It's not, no. And a lot of kids, that's all they eat, and they just drink soda and hamburgers from McDonald's, and that's it. I'm surprised they're still alive. That's very unhealthy.
It is.
I don't
it
even know
is.
what it is. Mystery meat, maybe it's Soylent Green, So,
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but my point is, a lot of the fast food stuff, I just don't think people should have that all the time.
Yeah, they shouldn't.
And so, in my case, I just said I wanted to take care of my temple.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I'm 57 now, and I'd like to think for a guy my age, I'm relatively in decent shape.
Yeah.
Not all got this gut sticking out. You know? And I don't mean that critically when I say
know,
that.
I know.
I think a lot of it is just our American diet.
It is,
And
yeah.
it's
People
it's
are,
the convenience of
people say, I'm a
fast food.
steak and potatoes guy, and that's all they eat is this
Yeah.
bloody red steak.
Yeah.
You know, and they scarf that down with baked potato and all this whipped, what is that,
On
cream
the other
that,
hand,
Yeah.
and they eat
can't-
that almost every day, and then they wonder why they gain all this weight.
You can't force things on people whose ancestors did not eat those foods.
I know,
Exactly.
that's why I'm
Like
not being critical when I
forcing black
say that.
beans and burritos on people whose family didn't
Yes.
I know.
eat those. Things.
I know. So when I say this thing, I'm not being critical.
Right.
I'm not knocking the fast food industry. I'm not
Yeah.
criticizing it. I'm just saying that if you want to feel better, in my opinion, you just have to take care of your temple and eat
You
better
do,
foods.
you do. Like,
You know, wheat breads,
exactly.
nuts, bananas, fruits, veggies, things like that.
I do
Nuts.
eat a lot of meat, though. I do eat a lot of meat myself.
nothing wrong with
but
meat.
It has, yeah, I love venison. I don't have venison anymore because my relatives passed away that did the hunting. But I love venison. Venison was fantastic. You ever have a hunk of venison? It's like a medieval meal. Some fancy drinks and some bread and some cheese. Oh, you're in heaven. It's like meal fit for a king. Just eat it right off the bone. It's wonderful.
When I was a child, of course, hunting has always been a big thing in Montana to supply winter meat.
Yes.
And my dad and brothers would bring home elk and buck and whatnot, and it would cure out, and then my mom would prepare it, slice it off, and debone it, and put it in the pressure cooker in this wonderful type of marinade, and she would can that, and we would have those little mason jars, all winter long. People thought it was a delicacy. Mm-hmm. They did.
Yeah.
Our relatives from the east said, "Oh, can I have some more of that?"
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Venison's delicious. Same with moose
I've had
or
it.
elk.
I've had venison. It is good.
It's delicious. Yeah, and it's good for you too. It's delicious. Moose, elk meat too. Moose meat. Moose hamburgers are good. I like moose as well. A little more gamey, but I like moose. Anything. Just. I'm not a hunter myself. I don't like the cold weather. I'm not good with hunting. It's just not my forte. And it costs a lot to get it. It's not my forte to go out somewhere in the woods for a couple nights, freezing into deer stand. Yeah, that's just not my forte. I'd rather get something from the grocery.
Yeah.
I'd rather hunt them with a camera than a gun.
Yeah. Now, if let's say it was easy, let's say I had a deer permit, and I could just zap, a laser gun here with this, bzz, and get it, and have someone prepare it for me. Okay, that's fine. But that's a little easier. That's only in heaven to just sit here, in a comfortable. That'll never happen except in heaven. It's so easy, bzz, that's it, But it's a lot of work hunting. It's just cold. You have to love cold weather, boy. It's just. I don't know. Some people love it,
Yeah. Oh, that was the thing to my big fat Greek wedding, by the way.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
playing while you were talking. But yeah, I've had venison and those kind of things, and you know what I like about those meats? I don't
What?
eat them all the time, but they don't have as much fat.
Exactly, yeah. Like at
And stuff like
Burger
that.
King, like I said, we're not knocking fast food, but it's greasy and fat, and we don't even know what's in it,
Yeah. Well, it's just
And that's
it's the
the
oily
difference
stuff,
also between range-fed beef and
Right.
corn-fed beef.
Yes.
Right.
Corn-fed beef is well marbled and flavorful, whereas range-fed beef is leaner
Yes.
and better for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's just the point I'm making. If you're gonna eat that kind of stuff, but everybody is different.
Yeah.
Everybody's metabolism is different.
Yes.
So when I say these things, I'm only speaking for
Exactly,
myself.
exactly.
I didn't
Same
want to
here.
get into my 50s and have this big
Yeah.
stomach protruding. You can't even see your feet.
Yeah.
What if you trip on a rock?
Yeah.
You're like walking around with this
Yeah.
gut like, and you
Yeah.
can't see where you're going. You stumble.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
fine.
can't look like a starving artist that way.
So.
Yeah.
But obesity is a big problem in our
Yeah.
culture.
I don't know
our
how it got
country.
to that.
I think it's not the people.
Yeah, it's not the people,
It's the
no.
diet.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's the American diet and the stuff they put in the.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Foods
it's
when they're preserving
also
it.
sitting around all day without exercise.
And stuff like that. But
I mean, when I was a child, where were we until 9 o'clock at night? Outside playing.
yeah. Well, my birth mom, she called me in And you get dark. All right, Asaph, it's time to come in. Oh, Mom, I don't want to come in. And she's like, get in here. So
I have a funny story though about fast food restaurants. This is when I was a kid, and my sister and my nieces were living, with us. And one of my nieces, we went to the Jack in the Box. This is in Tucson, Arizona.
I remember Jack in the Box.
Yeah. My 2-year-old niece would always point and say, "Clown meat, clown meat, clown meat." We thought laughing. That's funny.
Do you remember those? Do you remember those commercials that they used to have about Jack in the Box? How they were like simple, fun commercials.
No, I don't.
And then the clown image disappeared for a while in real life. I think it was gone for like a year or two in real life, and they weren't showing any Jack in the Box commercials. And then when they started doing the Jack in the Box commercials, that clown had changed, and he was blowing stuff up, and and that didn't sit well with the American public.
Clown posse.
Yeah, that didn't sit well when they first introduced that concept, so they had to go back to the happier clown. But yeah, I used to eat a Jack in the Box in California.
Yes, yeah.
What I liked about that place, they had these really thin tacos. I mean, they were literally like something like this thin. It was just almost like just a spoonful of little meat and cheese that was melted into it or something. It was only about this big. Just a skinny little taco, and I think it was like $1 or something. Those were kind of tasty, I have to admit.
I used to like their fish and chips.
Do they even still have Jack in the Box, or is it?
They actually do. They don't have it over here in Missoula, but they have it in Portland. I've seen them in Portland, Orland.
And another place I used to like. Do you remember a place called the Wienerschnitzel?
No, I don't.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I don't think they have it in Montana. It was like it looked like a house. It had a pointed roof, and all they sold was hot dogs. Like they had these beef hot dogs, and they had what was called a mustard dog, where it'd be like
and a chili dog and a Chicago
it had like
dog.
this big sliced pickle in there with mustard. They had kraut dogs. They had chili dogs. Anything pertaining to hot dogs. They called it the Wienerschnitzel. It was really good.
They still have at least one in Las Vegas.
A Wienerschnitzel, they still have it. And then there was another fun place.
It doesn't taste like meat. The meat doesn't taste like meat.
Well, it's just
or
a little
have
snack.
the texture of it.
Yeah, but my point is, they had a lot of interesting fast food places, and mostly in California.
Yeah,
but they probably don't have it here in Montana.
Yeah.
Now, one of my personal favorites besides Wendy's, with the exception of Wendy's, they had a place called Roy Rogers. Do you remember that?
No, I never heard of it.
It was a nice little fast food, but it was like in a restaurant style. And I noticed that this place was always immaculately clean. The floors were clean, the tables were clean, and but they served fast food, but it was like really well cooked. Like these Roy Rogers hamburgers, based on Roy Rogers and Dale Evans, obviously, and so on. So they had some pretty cool places.
Another place, it's not exactly fast food, in California is Bob's Big Boy.
Yeah, I remember Bob's Big Boy.
Never been to California except once when I was a baby. Otherwise, I've never been to California.
Well, if I ever get a chance to take you to California or Las Vegas, you can experience that stuff. Like, they have a lot of those things in California that they probably don't have in Montana.
Oh,
they had Carl's Jr. That was interesting because when you went to this restaurant, they char-broiled right in front of you. They had this flame that literally came up that you could see your burger being cooked on this grill with flame hitting it. Char-broiled, they called it. And that was interesting.
Yeah. And, of course, there's Fat Burger.
Yeah, I remember Fat
Never
Burger.
heard of it.
Yeah, these are just places mostly in California. Yeah, In-N-Out Burgers.
Or Chicago.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember one. Oh.
Yeah, they had a lot of those kind of...
There's a... I don't know if it's California and Nevada that have the old idea of the old car hop with the girls on roller skates.
Oh, okay.
It's sort of the old drive-in idea. It's mainly for, it attracts teenagers who go out for a Coke or something.
Yeah, but see, we can't really compare Montana to California as far as fast foods because
we can't. Yeah,
there's so many fast food or restaurant settings in a place like California.
Yeah.
And the traditional fast foods, like we talked about earlier, like McDonald's, I don't think those are good. But like some of the better ones, like Roy Rogers, maybe Carl's Jr., because of the charbroil.
And Wendy's.
And Wendy's and so on. Some of those
are really,
I used to like the
salad bar
really
at
good.
Wendy's, and when they had, you could just buy a baked potato.
I remember
with a dressing of your choice. You get that's healthy.
Yeah.
I go round and round with my brother-in-law about potatoes, but They aren't just starch. They provide
Yeah,
almost
exactly.
all of the nutrients and roughage, if you will, that are needed
Yeah.
to sustain life. 45% of the day's minimum vitamin C requirement.
Yeah.
When a man loves a woman, I'm just playing at while you're
Let a
talking.
man loves a woman.
Yeah, Percy Sledge. Yeah, we just lost him less than a year ago, I think.
Oh.
Well, he was kind of older.
Uh-huh.
But what a
And
beautiful
then
song.
there was the guy, I
What a
was going to
beautiful
mention
song.
that last time, from Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Oh gosh, what's his name? Maurice something, I think was his name. I'm not as familiar with this musician, but I know of him. And Earth, Wind, and Fire, they were quite the group in the 70s in their heyday.
Oh, I've heard of them. Didn't Kool and the Gang write When
They-
a Man Loved a Woman, or
No,
no?
no, that was Percy Sledge.
No, I don't know Kool and the Gang. I've heard of.
They did a song called Too Hot, which I thought was an interesting
Hot.
song.
Yeah, it probably
Yeah.
doesn't sound any good to me. Yeah.
Well, it was a little breakup song.
Oh, okay.
But it worked for them.
Mm-hmm.
And around the 70s, it was Earth, Wind, and Fire, Tower, Power, and Kool and the Gang. They were the three probably most dominant soul-type groups of that era.
Yeah, yeah.
People like Teddy Pendergrass. I think he came up, he's like soul singer. And my father and I actually went to see Teddy Pendergrass in concert when I was in high school. My dad took me for whatever reason. He just decided he wanted to go see Teddy Pendergrass in concert. And I have to admit, it was a pretty impressive show. The lighting and the smoke on stage. You know, the performers are always doing stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And he was singing those love songs that he was known for. Kind of sensual love songs, but, well, it worked for him.
Yeah.
So, but I've been to a few concerts in my time.
You know,
I've
singer,
seen
punk
James
rock,
Brown.
you know,
Yeah,
punk
I've
rock.
seen James Brown in concert, and just interesting.
Yeah.
Doc Severinsen, I saw him in
Yeah.
concert.
Have you ever heard of Tingstad and Rumble? They're kind of more contemporary instrumental new age. It's a husband and wife team. They play piano and some other instruments and guitar and some beautiful things. I have a few of their CDs. Just beautiful, beautiful music about nature and everything. They
No, I
came
don't
to
know
Missoula
that.
a few years ago, 1998, I believe. Really nice. Beautiful, beautiful music. I heard them in a coffee shop one time. The album Pastorelle, and it was so beautiful. Da, 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 da. I just had to get it, and I just fell in love with Tingstad and Rumble. They're still around. They've done several albums. It's just beautiful. I think that's more of the new age music category.
Okay, I don't know them.
They're just contemporary instrumental, kind of just easy listening type. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, they came to town. No slam dancing there. You can't slam dance to music about sunshine or pastoral flowers. That'd be kind of hard to do. But like you, I'm allergic to aspartame too. I know how because I bought a thing of soda pop one time. You remember NutraSweet?
Yeah, we're
And-
talking about that. Yeah.
I hadn't opened it. I opened it, and I was gonna get to sleep, and I wanted a soda pop before I went to sleep, you know. And so I took a sip of it, about a glass about this big.
I got
and
some
it
more water if you need it.
Thanks. And it tasted funny. And I said, "What in the heck is this?" But I started getting all nervous. I couldn't sleep. I started getting edgy and agitated with angry thoughts, or just nervous and edgy, and we're just
Probably a reaction you might have had to the ingredients in the soda or something.
It was diet soda, and I looked at the ingredients. Here's NutraSweet, aspartame. That's how I found out I was allergic to aspartame, and it was just a small glass like
Well,
this.
another thing about aspartame in sodas is that when it is suspended in liquid, if it's like being transported somewhere, most of those trucks that those are transported in have cooling systems, but there are times when it sits, and if it is exposed to 100-degree plus temperatures for any length of time at all, it forms a kind of alcohol that is dangerous for your brain.
Yes, I can believe it.
Well, maybe somebody will fix it where they'll make better.
Sugar-free.
I know they have
Sugar-free. You know, if they don't want to use real sugar,
Exactly.
something that's not gonna like make you climb the wall like Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's how I felt. That's how I
think
felt.
Splenda is better, is that right?
Yeah, Splenda. I've never had Splenda. I don't know about Splenda. I've never eaten Splenda.
I just go without a sweet taste.
Yeah, but I just think it's better if you can acquire a taste for stuff without sugar, like
That's
tea.
what I was saying.
Like when I go get Chinese food and they serve all that tea, I just drink it straight.
There are so many
stuff like
varieties
that.
of tea.
Oh,
and
I know,
it
but I mean, I
tastes-
just like the straight tea.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
tastes, that what I'm saying is it tastes just fine without sugar or
Oh,
milk
yeah.
or anything else. It tastes fine just as it is. And another thing, when I make my flaxseed tea,
Uh-huh.
it's just taking about 6 cups of water and boiling it and putting a couple tablespoons of just flax seeds in it. Boiling it pretty well until it gets syrupy looking, and then strain the seeds off. It smells just like regular pico tea,
Interesting.
and it's good for your insides.
Interesting.
It's actually what in earlier years was called linseed oil, and that's what they lubricated the machinery with in the factories and things. I think that's fascinating because
It
it's
is.
something that is good for us.
Yeah, it is fascinating.
Well,
just
you know,
like-
I know when I drink tea, it makes me feel more relaxed on the inside,
Yeah,
better,
yeah.
especially if I drink hot tea. You know,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And it helps. In my case, it helps with getting rid of phlegm issues out of my body.
Yeah.
Drinking hot tea, and it helps me to personally to breathe better
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you know you take a swallow of hot tea and you can feel the warmth going down.
Well, it's always been a remedy.
Yeah, and it just makes me feel so much better.
Always been a
Interesting.
remedy,
Didn't-
and
no,
that's
fascinating.
why the English were so devoted to their tea in the afternoon, because it was to revive your body
Uh-huh.
and to help it.
I'm playing a nighttime.
Another thing a
nocturne.
lot of people have forgotten about, even though it came up in recent years, was that using vegetable oil can be used to fuel machinery and trucks and whatnot. So you can have vehicles running on used vegetable oil.
Interesting.
And there is a tree that grows wild. It's very much like United States prairie grass, and that can be converted into something very much like gasoline to provide fuel without
Yeah.
using carbon fuel. But they won't do it. They just want to shut down the coal mines
Yeah.
so
True,
that more people lose work.
Yeah. So I guess neither of you eat much cake or ice cream or cookies.
I do on occasion.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying
Exactly.
you know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying don't eat your cookies and
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
I think anything in moderation.
I think you're absolutely. You can abuse anything. I mean, you can have cake or candy ice cream in moderation. But let's say I was thinking about this a few days ago. Let's say I eat at breakfast, lunch, and dinner just ice cream and cake, and don't have any healthy foods. That's abusing it. That would ruin my health, you know. So I agree with you on that. Yeah.
Well, here's my test. I haven't done this for a while. In the lunch that was provided for me, I have a gluten-free cookie that is also sugar-free.
Yeah, but you can still taste
And-
the degree of sweetness even in this gluten-free cookie. You can
It-
still taste the degree of sweetness there.
Yes,
you know?
what I'm saying is I just have lost the taste for it. I don't need it.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Well, you know, if you just acquire taste for something long enough, you'll start really adjusting to it and like it, and realize you don't have to have salt. Because like when I have eggs, I don't put salt on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's already a taste. I like to taste the egg itself, like when I have like a fried egg or something.
Yes.
Because when I was like when I was a teenager, I put salt on everything.
Yeah.
And just you don't even taste the food; you just taste the salt.
salt,
It's like
yes.
that
I
creature
use
on
salt
Star
for-
Trek.
Yeah, I
remember
know.
that?
Yes, I do.
You remember that episode of Star Trek
That's
that
one of
was
my
called
favorites.
the Man Trap?
That was one of my
Yeah,
favorites.
this is an interesting episode. Captain Kirk went to this planet, right? And it was like really hot.
Yes.
And there was this creature.
Yeah.
It was the last of its kind, like the
Yeah.
buffalo.
Yes.
And so it could change itself into a human, but it lived off salt.
And
it just, it's like if when it was in human form, if it touched your face, it licked its fingers
Exactly,
when you weren't looking. You weren't
exactly.
looking because it just ate salt,
Yeah, exactly.
and you don't need all that salt.
Yeah.
So
I use salt for salt water to gargle.
That's
with,
different, but I'm talking about
And
Right,
for my
right.
sinuses, I don't eat it.
you sprinkling salt on everything. This might be an exaggeration.
never-
Like you might
I
have.
think I've related to that. I was
Yeah, you
thinking
might
about
have some
that.
pickles, for example, or something. You just sprinkle salt on your
Or when
pickles,
you-
salt on your bread, salt on your ramen noodles.
I know.
When
Whatever.
you're boiling water, there needs to be a catalyst, and if you put in a couple grains of salt, it provides that function.
Yeah, but I'm not talking
that
about
the
that
water-
aspect of
Right,
it, though.
right.
I mean, just people that just put salt on everything,
Yeah.
Just you taste the food, it's all salt. Like
I know.
that creature.
Salty potato chips that are filled with salt,
And then you go home and put some more salt on it.
Yeah.
You should see that episode. It's called Man Trap.
It was the
This
first one. It was
creature.
excellent.
It
So
was
this
called-
creature was trapping Captain Kirk to lick him?
No,
no,
well,
it would drain the salt
it
from
would
your
drain
body.
the salt from your body if it got ticked off at you.
Yeah, or it really needed salt and was starving for
If it was
salt.
starving for salt, then it would get all bad, and start killing folks
Yes,
and sucking the
exactly.
salt out their body. But when it was behaving itself, and you shake hands, or
Yeah, exactly.
it's like it turned itself into a girl or something, like
Yeah.
it did with Dr. McCoy.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, Leonard.
yeah.
And she'd be doing something like this, and then when he look, it's licking its fingers, just getting
Exactly.
the salt off your face or something.
Yeah,
But Captain Kirk always figures things out.
yeah, yeah.
And so he figures out that Dr. McCoy's girlfriend's not really human.
Exactly.
So the creature gets all ticked off. And like,
yeah, it was an excellent episode. It's one of my
Dr.
favorites.
McCoy's girlfriend.
Well,
Right,
see
right.
what it was, how this whole episode started. Before McCoy signed up on the Enterprise when he was
Yeah.
young,
Uh-huh.
he was dating this girl named Nancy.
Yes.
And so they parted ways because he got into Starfleet. Nancy married this professor. So years later, McCoy and the Enterprise went to the planet where his old girlfriend was
Uh-huh.
and the husband. But what Dr. McCoy didn't know is that his girlfriend had died
Yes.
years ago.
Yes.
And so the husband took up with this creature that could turn itself
Exactly.
into anything. So the creature turns himself into the
Nancy.
professor's
Yes,
wife, Nancy.
Nancy.
So when Dr. McCoy shows up, he thinks it's the real Nancy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And then this thing had power not only to change itself, but it had the power to make other people see it differently. The same person,
Yes,
but different.
yes.
So when Captain Kirk saw Nancy, he saw the white hairs, the mature look. But when Dr. McCoy sees Nancy, he saw Nancy the way he remembered her when they first split.
Right, right.
And they had this ensign on there who saw Nancy as this cute blonde. Real hot blonde. So Nancy goes for a walk, right? And she sees this young ensign there, so she drops this handkerchief. And the guy picks it up and he walks off guard duty, when he picks up the necklace, he thinks he's going to score with this really hot blonde. But the thing was hungry for salt, right?
Yes.
So it gets alone with the guy and it sucks the salt
Yep,
out of
yep,
his body.
yep.
It kills him and leaves these little rings
Yep,
on the
yep.
face. It's just the
It was
funniest
an excellent
episode.
episode. It was a fantastic episode. I loved it.
Yeah. and every time when it would suck the salt out of your body, you have these little marks like chicken pox. These
Yeah, yeah,
big,
yeah. Rings, yeah.
rings on your face. And so Captain Kirk gets suspicious, because
Yeah,
he sees his
exactly.
crewman dead. And McCoy can't figure it out for a while.
Yeah.
Finally, when they figure it out, they wait till that thing gets on the Enterprise, and since it could turn into anybody, it's going around sucking salt out of people's body, changing
Yeah.
images and stuff. So you never knew. And they had a scene where the thing had turned itself into Dr. McCoy and was on a bridge, because
Yes.
McCoy always goes on a bridge. As Spock was trying to figure stuff out, and everybody thinks it's the real Dr. McCoy, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
And then Spock gets suspicious because of the behavior.
Yes.
And then he and Captain Kirk figure out it was really the alien.
Yes.
And they kill the alien at the
Yeah,
end.
yeah.
Or Dr. McCoy does.
Yeah.
But yeah, you should see that. It's an interesting episode.
It's a very good one. They have them on Me TV every Saturday night at 8 o'clock on 194.
Yeah, I watch
On
Me
cable.
TV. I watch Me TV, and I have a ritual because I like to watch Lost in Space.
Oh, yeah.
It's on Me TV.
Yeah.
And I used to watch Lost in Space when I was a kid.
Yeah. I didn't think you had cable. I
No,
have
don't.
cable
No,
charter.
I have
yeah.
I have a converter box, and it just happens to get
Oh,
Me
okay.
TV.
That's good. Yeah, that's
So
excellent.
every Saturday, I'll
Yes, exactly.
look at Wonder Woman and then Star Trek.
Yeah, yeah.
And then later on, around midnight or whatever it is, I watch Lost in
Yeah,
Space.
fascinating,
before I
yeah.
go to bed. And I've seen some interviews with the surviving actors on Lost in Space. You know when that show first came on the air, how serious it was?
Yes, I remember.
Black and white.
Yeah, that was very good. That
And
first
then
episode.
they should have kept it serious.
Yes, they should have.
started getting goofy with
Yeah,
these
they did.
strange monsters and
Silly
what have you.
plots.
Yeah. But even Billy Mooney, the actor, admitted that they should have kept that show serious.
Yeah, they should have.
But that's just my
I
opinion.
went to a supermarket one time near my house in Las Vegas, and there was this huge motorhome, and a guy got out of it, and I said to him, "Are you Bob Denver?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, what are you doing now?" And I said, "I used to watch you when you were on Dobie Gillis." And then he was on, what is it, Island?
Gilligan's Island.
Gilligan's Island. Then he was Gilligan.
Oh, you mean Bob Denver, the actor?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was with his family, had this huge motorhome, and he was driving them, around the country, and he was just as accessible and nice as anybody.
That's
Yeah.
what I like about famous people when they're accessible.
Yeah.
And they're just down to earth, They're not standoffish to their fans.
Yeah.
I've met enough famous people in my lifetime. Some just really want to push you away, and others be like, "Hey, have a seat."
Yeah, exactly.
And I've had that happen. Like speaking of Star Trek, did you see that episode when the Enterprise went to the Roman planet with the Romans?
Oh yes, and it was back in time to Roman gladiators.
Yeah, you
but with
remember?
this
You
modern
remember
technology.
that one actor that was the emperor of the
Yes.
that real heavyset actor? He was like
yes.
really bad. Well,
Yes.
I met him in real life. And
Whoa.
he was the nicest guy. He was eating lunch at a store, and I was in Hollywood one day, and I happened to walk in, and I recognized him, and I walked up and said, "Hey, are you that actor that was on Star Trek that played the emperor?" He says, "Yeah, that's me."
Cool.
He said, "Have a seat." And I had a seat with him, and he took time to talk to me.
That's
Nothing
wonderful.
like that character he played on Star Trek where he was wiping everybody out.
Yeah.
And we talked about that episode. He was just kind of giggling and
Yeah,
laughing.
I
You got to
remember that
remember,
one.
he was just an actor playing a role. But he was just the kindest soul to me.
Yep. Wonderful.
He invited me at his table to just sit, and it was just he and I.
Yeah,
We were
it's
talking
wonderful.
about his character he played on that Star Trek episode. So that's pretty cool. I mean, he was terrible. He made Captain Kirk's life miserable.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I remember that.
He put Spock and McCoy in a gladiator ring
Yeah,
and
that was
fight
really
these
cool,
gladiators, and he stabs this one.
But it was on TV. Thing is, they were showing it on TV live. Where have these gladiatorial combats? It's
Right,
on TV and these huge cameras, and it's going to be excellent. Of course, they played the goose and catch calls and the
Yeah,
cheerleaders.
but that
Unlike it, that's
emperor, he
fascinating,
was
yeah.
just such a kind soul for real. And it was funny sitting next to him talking because he was laughing about that character he plays that he played on that episode.
Yeah,
But he's a trained actor, so that's what
Yeah,
we have to remember
exactly.
that these people are trained actors.
yeah, they are.
Well,
Play bad guys. They're not really bad in real
exactly,
life,
exactly.
and that's the diversity of theater and acting is,
Right.
playing these various kinds of characters and being the character.
Yes.
Yeah, and what people have to remember is if somebody's playing a bad guy, that doesn't mean they're a bad person
Exactly.
in real life. But see,
Exactly.
they get to take it a personal, right? And then they see him in
Yeah.
real life, they're all ticked off at the
Yeah,
actor.
I
Like,
know.
the actor didn't do nothing wrong, he's
Who
just
was
an
that
actor.
guy on Dallas? JR.
Oh, JR.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Larry
The guy you love to hate. Well,
Yeah.
I met him up in Big Bear Lake. And
He was probably the
just
nicest guy, too.
wonderful.
And I liked him in I Dream of Jeannie. He was so funny in that to me. And speaking of I Dream of Jeannie.
Incidentally, Larry Hagman and his wife were vacationing in Montana. They really like Montana. And I believe that they went to Hot Springs and then Boulder. And they went into a bar in Boulder.
Uh-huh.
And the couple there had the last name of Duffy.
Oh,
And
his...
they talked to him about their accomplished son Patrick, and lo and behold, Larry Hagman got him on Dallas.
That's pretty cool. I used to watch that show. That was a pretty cool show. Your typical soap opera like Dynasty and all the rest of those. But I really liked Larry Hagman and I Dream of Jeannie. And on that note, we're going to have to stop for now. We can do
Yep.
part 2 later and continue because I'd like to talk about Larry Hagman and I Dream of Jeannie.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, this is part 1 of our Valentine's show. And once again, we have...
My funny Valentines.
yeah, let's see.
Yeah,
My funny.
that's been on the Easy Listening Station. Yep.
You make me smile with my heart.
better stop there because we're running out of time. I'll do that again.
Happy trails to you.
Yeah, well, I'll have you sing that in a moment. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Asaph Adonai. This is Asaph Cafe. We're just shooting the shoot, as the old saying goes.
We are.
And we have our aging rocker, Emmett, here.
Yeah.
And, of course, the lovely Linda Brooks Curtis. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. And have a happy Valentines. And until our next show, Maranatha.
Yep.